Welcome to Ponchatoula Live, the show where we make it easy for you to connect with the people of Ponchatoula. I'm your host, Parker Layrisson, and today I've got a truly fantastic guest. This is one of my favorite people in town. He's just a great guy who is a wonderful person. He's got a great family, but he's so much more. He is one of the most talented performing artists you'll ever meet, a truly great musician. He is a man of faith, a family man, just a wonderful person who has a great abundance of talents, and I can't wait for him to share that with you today. So with no further ado, I bring to you my good friend James Gibbs Jr. James, welcome to the show.
Man, I appreciate it, man. It's a pleasure to be here, bro. Really,
It's so great to get you here today. You know, I'm such an admirer of you and your wife and your whole family, and I'm just so excited that you were able to share your time with us. And why don't we kick things off with you just telling our viewers a little bit about yourself and your background?
Yeah, no problem at all, man. And again, I have to say it again, man. I appreciate this opportunity. Every chance I get, any kind of platform, whether it's big or small, man, I like to take full advantage of it and just just be truthful with first myself and with others, man. First of all, as you said, my name is James Gibbs Jr. I'm originally from Springfield, Louisiana, right down the road, down that old country boy I am. Gibbs and James Gibbs. Matter of fact, my mother has ties here. She graduated from Ponchatoula.
Cool.
Around about 74, 75. She graduated from Ponchatoula. But man, come from humble beginnings. Wasn't poor, but wasn't rich at the same time. I'm an oldest of four kids. Was raised by my mom and dad. I had both in the household, which was very important of the outcome of me. Every chance I get, I let my mom know. My dad passed in 2016. This is him I'm representing today. Got a charm with his face on it.
I'm so sorry for your loss. That had to be so tough. It sounds like y'all were really close.
Man, me and my dad, man, we worked together, turnarounds, different things. He was. I tell everybody, man, when I get a chance to tell my story, and all my friends know, my dad, what he instilled in me was a work ethic. My mom was more of the spiritual, guide for us in my household. And but I credit everything to my dad for his my work ethic. Anybody that knows me, I'm gonna have to laugh because my wife called me. She says I'm a Mexican by trade. You know what I mean? That what she called me, because their work ethic, and I love my Mexican brothers and sisters.
Right.
Friends, but just their work ethic, man. And
no, it's something to admire, and you have that. So you got that from your dad. So let's dig in there before we get into the rest of your story,
sure.
Because it resonates with me. I mean, I have a very close relationship with my dad, and you may not know this, but believe it or not, my daddy's named James, and I'm named James. I'm James Parker. Not many people know that. And I named my son after him. He's James Edward. He's the first one to actually go by James. So we have and I have a nephew named James. So it's good to have you on the show. We have our own James gang.
Wow.
But tell us about James Gibbs Sr., your dad, because you're sharing how he instilled this work ethic in you. But, he means so much to you. You got him right there on your chest. Tell us what kind of man he was and what it was like growing up, in his house as his oldest son.
I have many fond memories. I just remember my dad, being a provider. He was an absolute provider from day one. I can remember, and I just told somebody just the other day, I can remember, during the summer times, we'll sleep in the living room on the floor or something like that. And I can remember being 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning. He's waking up going to work. And I'm like, Daddy, hurry up and close the door. You know what I mean? It's cold out there.
Right.
But, man, I just remember that. And by the time I hope we get able to touch on education too, because I want to shed some light on that.
Oh yeah, I'd love to hear that.
So when the school thing faded out for me, because I wasn't a high school graduate, and I want to touch on that because it's so important. I share my testimony.
Yeah, please share that with us.
But by the time I did that, I went working with my dad. We worked at Trinity, I think it's Trinity Shipyard in Madisonville.
Okay.
My dad was a welder by trade, so I got a chance soon as the school thing ended for me. And it wasn't because I couldn't make it, you know, I just didn't apply myself. I had greater things on my mind at that point. I thought was great. Let's make that, because I'm here to promote education A1, and we go get on that. But just to make that, I started working with my daddy at Trinity Shipyard. After that, I got old enough. I went and got my OSHA card. I worked with him on turnarounds, and we come from a family of that. And maybe you might not know this either, but my uncle, which is my mom's brother, is Larry Terry.
The great basketball player, Larry Terry. Yeah, no, he was an absolute legend here in Ponchatoula. First person I knew of to play professionally.
Right.
Okay, great. Yeah, great legend there.
Right. His dad and my mom are brothers and sisters. So
okay.
With that being said, we come from a family. He was a welder also. My dad was a welder. I had two other uncles. One was a high influence in my life. They was all, you know, foreman and heading up jobs. So that's when I came up under the turnaround era. And, you know, I didn't have no other choice but to work.
Sure.
You know, and be a hard worker, because my dad was there. My uncles was there. They wouldn't go let me, you know, slide. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So with that, coming down to that, to man, and all of that, I had experience and memories with my dad and everything else. So I didn't saw the good of my dad. I didn't saw the bad of my dad. And coming down later in years, 2016, I guess he found out in 2015 that he was diagnosed with prostate cancer.
Oh man.
So you know, that's very dear to my heart too. That's why, you know, I wear him around my neck for just to show, it's a conversation starter too. And I would like to say to all the young men that's on here, I know it's high in the African American society for its prostate cancer, and also in Caucasians, and in every field it's high, man. But I just want to let anybody know, any male, no matter what color you are, man, go get tested.
Yeah.
Go get tested.
That's so important, you know, and that you're speaking to me right now at a very poignant time, because I turned 45 in a few days.
Okay.
And I was at my doctor the other day for my checkup, and we had to schedule that.
Man, I know.
Which comes at that age. But look, men of a certain age, we owe it to our families to go get checked out and do our best. So thank you for sharing that. That's a very important public health warning, and I appreciate that. And it's really neat to hear you speak with such love in your voice about your father, about what a blessing it was, one, to have a father in the house, because it sounds to me like you don't take that for granted, having seen so many people not get that benefit. I mean, I know my father lost his dad at 16. And you know, every day I've had since then, I feel blessed that I've had a dad for 44 years and counting. And so that's
I had mine for 41 years, so it's a blessing, man. I can't complain.
What a blessing that is, and he sounds like a special man. And I love how you honor him by wearing that necklace, because you know our mutual dear friend, your cousin-in-law, Marshall Graves. He and I are in basketball season right now, coaching together, this group of kindergartners and first graders. And as you know, he's got a chain with his grandmother. And I'm going to tell you what, it makes such an impression on those little boys. I mean, we'll be in the middle of a timeout and they'll want to see, show me your grandmother. You know, they'll want to grab it, see it. It just really intrigues them. But it's a great way to show love. And the next generation's watching that. So that's really neat. Before I ask you about,
let me shout this out, Parker. I gotta shout out my wife for this gift.
Oh, that's an Aisha Graves memento. That's great.
Right. Yeah. I gotta shout her out.
Well, folks, if you don't know James, his beautiful wife, Aisha, she and I were high school classmates, and I always pick on him about how much game he must have, because Aisha was on the homecoming court every year. She was perhaps the most popular girl in our class. Everybody loves her. So he really scored a home run in the woman that he married, and I know we'll talk about her more later.
Yes, sir.
But while we're on the subject of family, if you don't mind, I do want to pull up some family members of yours and friends here who are commenting. And I see Tatisha Lewis is on here. That's your sister. She says she's proud of you. And we got Nita Moore on here.
Yeah, that's my sister-in-law.
Okay. And Ross Lewis, is that your brother-in-law?
Brother-in-law.
So he's giving you some props here. Miss Norma Graves, who of course we all know and love.
You know her, Parker.
I
Parker,
do.
know her.
She's showing you the love, and we love her. She's great.
Yes.
And Nita's back on here again saying, yeah, that's my sister. So folks, thank you for watching the show and for chiming in. And for anyone else who's watching live, know that we have the ability, if you're watching live, to share your comments. So if you want to throw out some love to James, as these folks have, speaking of Marshall Graves, well, here he is.
Bro?
Love both of y'all. Hey, Coach, I look forward to seeing you at the next game.
Hey, he told me how he trapped you, bro. That wasn't fair.
Let me let the viewers in on that. So Marshall, as y'all know, is perhaps Ponchatoula's best non-professional basketball coach.
Yes, sir.
He doesn't do it for a living, but he's an incredible coach, and he's raised all these ballers. You know, son number one was an SEC champion at LSU. Daughter, scores 2,000 points and is off to Auburn. And his baby boy, who I laugh as I say baby because Alan is 6'7", is tearing it up at Ponchatoula now as we speak. So I used to coach against Marshall 20 so years ago when little Marshall was a player. And I knew two things. One, he knows everything you need to know about basketball and is a great coach. And two, I don't, and I'm not. So when my baby boy or my older boy, my kindergartner, got into the league, I basically begged Marshall to play. And at first, Marshall was just very straight with me. He said, look, you're a dear friend, but man, I'm busy. I got a girl playing at Auburn. I want to travel to see her games. I got a son playing at Ponchatoula. He drives a bus. He owns a business. He's busy. And so I did what lawyers do. I got sleazy and I started pushing buttons, and I started creating memes, pictures of cute little kindergartners. Oh, we need a coach. Little memes of Big Bird saying, oh, you got a coach. And I knew that if I'd made it cute enough, his wife, Amy, would see it. And she'd say, Marshall, you got to coach those boys.
That's right.
And that's about what happened. So, yeah,
that's right.
We did kind of entrap Coach Marshall Graves. And James, thank you for sharing that. And Marshall, thanks for tuning in. Lots more love coming in here. Jennifer Wells.
Oh, yeah, that's my sis.
She says, that's my brother, and she's showing you love. Delois Brooks is sending you love.
Appreciate
Janice
it.
Gibbs says you're doing great.
That's my mom.
Oh, Miss Janice, thank you for raising such a fine son. I'm about to ask about you. We just asked about his father. We're getting to you next, I promise. And the great Aisha Gibbs, proud daughter. She's on her mom's phone, and she's watching you. Oh, my good old friend Rosalind McKay Baptiste, our councilwoman.
How you doing, Miss Rosalind?
She, her son Jack and I came up together. He and my brother Bree played football together, so I saw her at the ballpark many times as a kid. And Graves is circling back to let us know how much fun he's having, and he's sure glad to see you shining there, James. So thank you all for tuning in. Miss Janice, you're thanking us for having him, but thank you for sending him our way. And it's so great to see so many people here, James, chiming in to show.
How you doing, Denisha?
So yeah, y'all keep it coming. Denisha, thank you so much. So let's circle back to Miss Janice. James, you mentioned your father, how he helped you form this work ethic, and he led by example, and you were blessed not only to live with him for all those years and have him for 41 years, but to work side by side and to see him provide as a man for his family. And you mentioned your mom is this kind of spiritual rock. So tell us about her and what she was like as a mother and what the experience was like growing up in her house.
It was awesome, man. My mom, like I said, she got ties with Ponchatoula. She grew up in, I want to say it was Lakeside during the time, the Fathers Projects from Lit Flower. My grandmother was down in there for a while. And once my mom graduated from here, she was pregnant with me during the time that she graduated. So, I take my hats off to her just for that, still striving to get an education. And it was pregnant with me. But soon after that, we left Ponchatoula and we went to Springfield. But man, my mom, spiritual rock, man, she taught us Sunday school, church. You know what I mean? We was in Springfield. We didn't live.
So where'd y'all go to church? Were you out in Springfield, or did you?
Yes, Galilee Baptist Church, one of the oldest churches in Springfield. That's where where you know, everything. Really, that's where the singing started at.
Okay. Can't wait to get on that topic. Yeah.
Yes, sir. And we walked to Sunday school. Like I said, it was right down the road. So, you know, mom and my other three siblings, I have a sister that chimed in, which she's under me. Then I have two other brothers that's under her. So, man, she was the rock. I guess a lot of people say that we're so much alike. We bump heads sometimes. But man, I tell you, man, if I can have anything from my mom, and I tell everybody this, you know, people that's close to me that I shared it with, if I can have anything from her, it'll be her heart. Man, I mean, she got a heart.
Yeah, it sounds like you do, you know, to hear your family talk about you and people say y'all are alike, you know. You sound like a chip off the old block.
Man, I pray that I can be. You know, that's why daily I ask God for more understanding, more wisdom, more knowledge, and understanding. God say, in getting everything, make sure you have the understanding part of it, and that's what I want to have more of. Because I didn't found out, Parker, in 46 years, man, raising a son, raising a daughter, man. You gonna have to have the wisdom, you gonna have to have the knowledge, but at the end of the day, man, you have to have understanding.
Right. Amen to that.
So,
isn't it amazing though? Now that we're in our 40s, we have our own kids, how much smarter and stronger and wiser mama and daddy seem than they were when we were coming up.
That's right. Were you talking about us as parents or the grandparents?
No, yeah, us as parents, you know, looking back on that experience with them and how we probably didn't appreciate them for what they were in the moment. And now that we're having to do that difficult and all important job, we're kind of realizing how great they did at it. Has that been your experience?
And it's a full-time job, man, but it's a job. Yeah. My wife created me a shirt a long time ago, and this is one of her creations also. But man, what it is, parenting is one of the hardest but loving jobs ever.
Right. Amen to that. Yeah.
And it's a true thing. But man, the things that I try to instill, you know, in my kids and my family and friends and everybody that's chiming in. Every time you talk to me, every time you see me, you're getting a piece of James Sr. and you're getting a piece of Janice Gibbs. Janice Terry, that's her maiden name, but Janice Terry Gibbs.
That's cool. Well, thank you for sharing that with us. And it's neat to connect the dots because I had no idea about her connection with the Terrys. And you know, things start piecing together, you know, and it starts making sense about who's good at what sport and singing and what. You know, it's kind of like if you know, I mean, obviously Marshall Graves, junior or not junior, but you know, young Marshall. You see him coming a mile away because he shares his dad's name. And they're both great, but then you realize, oh, that's Amy Uter's son too, and you know, just so yeah. Hearing that Larry Terry's your relative, that makes some sense of things.
Hey, Park, I got to shout out one thing too. I know you said you never did touch the rim or the goal. I didn't either. I during my time, I think I got the backboard. I was able to slap the backboard when that was in. But I want to point out this one thing. I used to dunk on this fella a couple years back. Well, I guess it's been about 15 years now, and his name is Marshall Jordan Graves. Man, I actually used to dunk on him.
Marshall Jordan Graves came on this show and told us a story about how he beat Michael Jordan at basketball. So it's kind of neat to have somebody on the show talking about dunking on him.
But I think he was around about 5 or 6 years old.
Was it on like the Little Tykes basketball set? Is that what you were dunking on?
That's what it was, man. And look, and I know this show supposed to be about me, but I like uplifting other people. Man, that guy right there, it was in him. When I used to come over there by his dad's shop or come over there by his house, it'll be 9 o'clock in the morning, 8:30 in the morning. Marshall was out there bouncing that basketball in his tiny lit goal, and wouldn't leave out there until it was almost dark, 5:30, 6 o'clock, or 7:30, whatever the time season was. But man, he was dedicated from day one, and I'm a living witness of that.
Yeah, and you know, he's such a great, well-rounded person. You know, he was not just a great basketball player, but a great student. He seems like a great young husband, and you know, it's been a real pleasure to watch him grow up, and his sister and brother doing great things too. So
hats off to him.
That family is really one of my favorites to celebrate because they set an example for all of us
Yes, sir.
I do want to soon get into the great example that your wife's setting and talk about your family. But
Okay.
before I get there, you mentioned being the oldest of 4 kids. It sounded to me like your sister came next, and then your 2 brothers are 3
Right.
and 4. Talk about your siblings a little bit, because I'm one of 4 kids too. I'm
Okay.
second of 4, and I know growing up in a house of 4 can get rowdy. When I see my 2 boys squaring off and fighting virtually daily, it reminds me of me and Bree going toe to toe, and the many times he whipped me. But I know with 4 it can get even wilder. So, what was your house like? Was it like mine, where y'all were tearing stuff up, fighting each other all the time, or did your parents have that controlled a little better? What was it? What was the house like, sibling wise, when you were coming up?
Sibling wise, when I was growing up, we had we butt heads here and out. My sister pretty much, stayed to herself pretty much.
Yeah.
But man, it was a loving family. And during my era, man, it wasn't too much of playing inside. It was outside.
Right. Yeah.
During my era, either you going outside to play marbles. I'm telling my age now, but you playing marbles, or you going by your cousin's house playing.
I literally played marbles with my kid this morning.
Wow.
So it's making a comeback. My kindergartner now, full disclosure, he cheats. I got whipped. But that's something my parents love watching this. My mom and dad found their old marble set, which, I won't even date them on how old it is. But, here we are, 2022, and marbles is making a comeback.
Right, man, bring marbles back. But, man, yeah, it was either that. We did, during that time, we didn't do, like, too many vacations or anything like that.
Right.
During that time. But we did have family love. We had a auntie that was like in Kenner area, so we get to travel out there, which was an eye opener. So we did our things as a family. It pretty much was church, Sunday school, vacation Bible school, and stuff like that. But growing up in the household, it was great, man. We had a parents that provided for us. I remember, during the time where, the starter jackets came out and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
those big puffy ones.
Right. I missed out on all that, but it taught me values, man. I wasn't able to witness none of that or engaged in any of that. It was tight, but man, like I say, man, everything that we needed, our parents provided for us, man. We had more than enough. What we didn't have in money, we had in love.
Yeah, which as you well know, that's the important part, and that's the part we all need. If you don't mind, I want to share a few more comments, because speaking of love, you're getting it from all over.
Okay.
Latoya Henderson Lewis says,
What's up, cuz?
Kathy Mims is on here. Hey, Kathy, thank you for tuning in.
What's up?
Laretha Dangerfield, that's your cousin, I think, right?
Yes.
She's proud. He's proud. Let's see. Wait, Kathy's on here again. What a blessing.
Thank you, Miss Kathy.
And Justin Sharp says you're a great guest, and he can relate to working turnarounds with your dad, because he worked with his dad for about 10 years. So that's pretty cool. Very cool.
Thanks,
so thank
Justin.
you guys all for chiming in. So let's take it forward a notch. Let's talk about next chapter. And you mentioned wanting to get into the education part of this. So I think you mentioned earlier you didn't graduate high school. You went to work.
Right.
So tell us about that. And, I know you want to make a point about education. So please, the floor is yours.
And I know my mom on here. I just want to point it out. It wasn't no lack of parenting or anything like that. Sometimes that get played down when a child decides to do something or anything. They look back at the parent like the parent didn't do a good job. And I didn't learn that as a parent. I didn't learn that. All we can do is instill the values in our kids and before I jump on that, let's stick with the education part of it. So in high school, I dropped out. Like I said, I went to working. So during that time, I was working still. Making a good living for myself and for my. By that time, I had my son, and so I was working. But man, God started chastising me and whooping me in the inside. He was like saying, James, your education is important. You need to go back and finish. And my main thought was, man, when I had my son, I was like, I cannot tell him the importance of education. And then later, 6 years later, my daughter came, And that really pushed the issue.
So how old? Help me out here with the timeline. How old were you when you had your son, and that kind of switch flipped, if you will?
Okay, I was 21 when I had my son. I was the same age as my father when he had me, and it wasn't planned.
Right.
That's just the way it worked out. So doing that, I went, and again, man, anybody that know me know I share everything. I'm an open book. So my wife got me. She tutored me. Got my skills back up. Like I said, I never was a person that just didn't know, but I just didn't apply myself. So, we went through all the red tape. I went through the math, the social studies, the English, and everything else. And to make this story even more pleasurable, if that's a word, I'm making up words.
That sounds good, man. Keep going. You're fine.
Man, we fast forward. We get up there to Southeastern, and I'm finna take my GED test. And at this time, man, I'm 36. I'm 46 now. I'm 34, but the 36 is when I had it. When I got my diploma. But just to fast forward, I'm up there at Southeastern, so I walk up. It's got nothing but teenagers, 18, 19. Out there waiting outside the door. They was like, okay, you're the teacher? I was like, no, I'm here for the same reasons y'all here, so go ahead. You had anything to say on that?
No, well, I was going to offer that, my mom, she went back to college in her 40s. Okay. And she used to tell me the same thing. When she was a non-traditional student, she showed up and she's sitting there for class. And people are looking at her like she's needing to teach, but she's just a student, right?
That's right.
And I remember we were kids. We were like maybe 8th grade, somewhere in there. But, the thing that stuck out to me was how tough it was, because my mom was a really smart person, as you are. But when you're gone for when it's 20 years since you last took calculus, algebra, et cetera,
right.
I mean, that whipped my butt when I was taking it, right, coming off a great PHS education.
Right.
But I remember many nights when she was crying at the house because getting back in those maths was so hard. And thank God for our neighbor, Miss Barbara Allen, who was a math professor who tutored her and helped her. Sounds like Aisha did the same for you.
Right.
But I mean, what my point is just that I know it's particularly hard when there's a big gap between the last time you studied that. And from the time you dropped out to 36, we're talking like 20 years roughly, man. So that had to be quite a massive undertaking. And I just want to applaud you for it, man. That took a lot of courage, I'm sure.
Yeah, but Parker, that's not the best of the story yet.
Go for it.
I appreciate all that, man. It really took a lot. But I owed it not just to my kids, but I owed it to myself and to the rest of my family. And so we get there, they thinking I'm the teacher. I'm the student. So we get in there, and while I'm out there, I'm a person that I observe and I listen a lot. So I heard a lot of kids say, "Man, this is my 3rd time taking this test, or the English part. This is my 4th time taking the math part." So I'm like, "Oh wow!" So I go in deeper prayer then. So we get to in the classroom. I done took the math. I done took the social studies. My only part that I was really worried about was the English part, the essays. So before all that, like 2 weeks before that, man, God had spoke to me, just clear as day, and said, "James, what you want to be remembered for when you leave here?" And 2 weeks prior to that, I had that on my mind, and God, I was naming out all the things that I want to be remembered for. It wasn't money, it wasn't that. So we get the teacher comes by. She lay down the blank sheet of paper and the pencil. She said, "Don't start until I give the subject of the essay." So if she passed it all out, passed the pens out, she said, "Oh, I'm going to tell you the subject of the essay." She said, "I want everybody, the essay is what you want to be remembered for."
No, wow, that's a God thing there, man.
Parker, I finished that essay about in 15 to 20 minutes, man.
Oh, that's awesome, man.
And look, and got the results back probably a month later, aced everything, man. It was nothing but God, man. God had sought me up. So my testimony on that, everybody that's out there on Ponchatoula Live, you know, sharing this with Parker, man, no matter what it is, no matter how long you haven't done it or you just starting it out, whether it's a business or anything, man, if God is for you, who could be against you? God will prepare you. All he want to see is the effort. Just be an empty vessel, and God will provide the rest, man.
Man, that is so inspiring, and you're spot on. I mean, you couldn't be more right about that. Your mom here adds, you know, God did it, and you applied yourself at the right time, right? So, I mean, he laid that opportunity in front of you. He gave you everything it took to get it done. But, you know, you had to, of your own free will, step up and do it, and I applaud you for that. Karen Walker says this is a great interview, and that family is the most important thing, showing your love, sharing your love. And so thank you, Karen, for tuning in. Nita says it's never too late. Amen to that.
That's right.
Which Rosalind says here. Yeah, so much love and prayers coming at you. You know, I think most of these folks we've talked about. Thank you so much, guys. It's really important that y'all are, you know, are cheering on our guest here. So circling back, we're here with James Gibbs Jr. He's telling us this amazing story about going back to school. How, James, did your kids react to that? Because if you're 36 and you had these kids, you know, your son at 21, they're old enough then to kind of see what you're up to. You know, it's not like you're talking about babies that are out of it or kindergartners who don't care. I mean, what was their reaction and the impact on them? Because I'm thinking, what a great example you set by doing that. But did they ever verbalize to you what they thought of that? Or how did it go over in the house with your wife, with your kids, etc.?
Man, it was a total family effort, man. We share everything with our kids when it comes to our ups, and we even share with our failures with our kids. Because these days in time, Parker, you got to be transparent with your kids to the most part. You know what I mean?
Right.
And always, as a man, I always want to be the role model for my kids. I don't want them to go nowhere else, and it's okay because I didn't got role models outside of my own home. But I want to play some part of their upbringing or their character or the things that they seen. You know what I mean? I want to when I leave there, I want them to tell my grandkids, man, Papa did this and my daddy did this, and you can overcome everything. I don't have the perfect story coming up. I didn't. You know, I could have failed into selling drugs or anything, and we all could have took a different path. But man, thank God that he got us on the path that he have us on, man. Even with you, Parker, you know, I tip my hat off to you, man. I'm inside your establishment, man, and I know it wasn't easy, and I know you could have went 100 different ways, man. Because I always said, man, you was the smoothest white dude I ever knew, man. That's where I get parquet from. He's smooth like butter, y'all.
Thank you for sharing that. I mean, I got to tell you, any faults I have are my own. God bless me like he did you with great parents and a wonderful woman in my life and my wife and now these beautiful kids. And, you know, you're right. It gives you a whole new level of inspiration when you have kids, because you do want to play that role in showing them the way. And you've done that. So let's talk about how that family came to be. I mean, we've kind of hinted around Aisha Graves Gibbs long enough. Tell us about how you met your beautiful wife, and, you know, bring us into that love story.
Okay, man, many years ago, man, I'm thinking it had to be around about 89, 90. We actually met. We were both church people. We love, you know, singing and participating. And back when I was coming up, there was a whole lot of workshops going on, man, where you can go and just listen to, you know, outstanding choirs, outstanding groups, and you know, shout out to Ponchatoula Mass. That was a local choir right here in Ponchatoula under the direction of Alfred Lee Hart. He's gone on. The Hart Boys was a group of us throughout. I can't name how many, but I know it was at least 6 or 7, you know, that came in and out the group, and that taught me a whole lot on singing and harmonies and the way to hear. Shout out to Terry Hart. But man, it started at my church. She came to a workshop at my church at Galilee. We used to have a yearly workshop, and it was over with. I think I sung that night. I'm not for sure. And at the end of the program, it was her and her friend, her best friend until this day, Deborah Washington.
Yeah.
Yeah, shout out to Deborah. She has a sweet shop out there and all ate meat. That's going very well. But they asked me, do you know where the bathroom? Could you point us out to the bathroom? But I think it was all a setup, Parker.
That girl could have found the bathroom on her own.
Yeah, I think she could. And we argue about this stuff sometimes. Don't argue, but we debate. And she said it was at the mall. You know, man, shout out to Hammond Square Mall, man.
That's old school. Hammond Square, man. Now we're bringing up memories. Yeah.
Yeah, man. A lot of the young folks didn't have the opportunity to witness that, man.
Well, I can relate. My wife and I don't exactly agree on how we met and who asked whom out first and all. And, you know, all I got to say is, my dad told me when I got married, learn to say you're right. You know,
that's
it's not
right.
important for me to be right. So
that's right.
Marshall's chiming in here. Best mall there ever was. Yeah.
Ooh,
I know,
yes.
Marshall spent some time in the gold mine. How many quarters must he have dumped in there? I know I did.
Yeah, and that and corn dogs.
Oh, the corn dogs.
It's cheesy dogs or whatever you
Oh, yeah. What a great spot. Well, so you guys, that's kind of the first meeting. So, what's the first date? Who asked who out? How'd it go from there?
Man, Parker, back then, it probably was me, man. I was a tough guy back then. You know what I mean? And I thank God he should have broke me down a whole lot down through the years, man. And I thank God when I first met her, all I saw was beauty, hair, you know, and
what energy she
the
has.
whole 9 yards.
Personality. I mean, she's beautiful inside and out, but I just remember from our PHS days, she always had the ability to just light up a room, such an uplifting energy with humor and grace and all that good stuff. So I'm sure you were smitten pretty quick with her.
Yeah, man. Same to the day, man. And a lot of that rubbed off on me down through the years. And I tell anybody, man, if you find somebody that can help change your life, not just physically, but mentally, man, keep her. You know what I mean? Amen. And that goes for male or female. If you find a wife or you find a husband, man, and because you want somebody that you can share your life with, you can share your ups and downs. Then after that, bring a family into it. And I know you witnessing that now with your two young boys, Luke and James, man. And it's a beautiful thing, man.
No, it really is, but it's the ultimate test of your values because, falling in love's one thing,
right.
Beautiful women and corn dogs and Hammond Square Mall, there's a 1980s nostalgia and magic to that. But man, the challenges that come with parenthood and, y'all did it at a young age, so although you were, you had a good job and a good work ethic, thanks to your dad, it's not like you were rich. It's not like y'all had piles of money. Times are kind of hard when you're coming up as a young parent, especially. What are some lessons you learned? Because you two, I'm seeing you now in your 40s and, your kids are older than mine. So you and Marshall and all these people we've been talking about, y'all seem to kind of have it mastered, but I know it probably hasn't always seemed that easy. So if you were to look back at your young parent self or your young husband self, what kind of advice would you give yourself? Or maybe a better way to put that is, what advice would you give to young men now that are embarking on this journey of marriage, parenthood, family building, etc.?
Man, I get an opportunity to, talk and share my life with many people. And I didn't learn, in my 46 years, and especially these last 20 years of life, people want to know you before you come to them and talking about a Bible scripture. You know what I mean? They really want to know who you are. And I'm at a time in my life, man, if I could tell anybody, my younger years, men have a hard work ethic for your family. Put your family first. It's a whole lot that I went without. You know what I mean? For is driving a hoopty, from not having the best best clothes or anything, because I was provided for my family. As long as my children had, I was good. As long as my wife had, I was good. So young men, young fathers, put your family first. And the main thing I can say too, man, and this has been a pet peeve of Isha and I, don't never go to sleep angry or mad, whatever the problem is, talk it over.
Yeah.
Before you don't let that same problem arise the next day with you.
Yeah.
Some things you can't help.
That's great advice. Now, it's much easier said than done, especially
Right.
when you're tired and the kids aren't sleeping.
Right.
But it's gold. I mean, that is great advice, and I agree 100%. Very well said.
Right, and just like you said, man, some things, life take its course. It might not work like that all the time. But my point is, don't let it build. Don't let that seed become a full tree.
Right.
In other hand, tear it down. Even I had to come, baby. What you told me the other night. You was right.
Right.
I was wrong. You know what I mean? And in some instances, you had to come to me and say the same thing. But man, when you find that soulmate, when you find that person that's for you, that God created for you, man, if you put up the effort, man, and just let God do the rest, it's work. It's hard work. But when you love that person,
absolutely. Hard work, but like anything in life, it's worth it's worth it.
Yes,
It's
sir.
you get what you give out of that relationship, and so if you put in the work and you put in the effort, it pays off.
Yes, sir.
Well, speaking of relationships, let's talk about the ultimate relationship here.
Okay.
That being with God, of course. And I
Right.
know how important your faith is to you. You've talked about growing up in the church. I know through your music ministry and all that you have going, that's a really big part of your life. Can you tell us a little bit about your faith walk? Because clearly you were raised in the church. Your mother was a great spiritual guide to you. And now you have your own very strong role, not only, in your own family, but in helping other families. But what's that journey been like? And just tell us about, what that walk has been like for you.
Man, I didn't. They made plenty of mistakes. You know what I mean? And the best way to save somebody, the best way to help somebody is be truthful.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not standing up here saying, sitting here saying I did everything perfect. Have I hurt people? I have.
Of course, we all have.
All the time, but when you're younger, you're a whole lot more selfish. You don't think before you speak, and everything else. But man, my faith,
wait, who said that's only when you're younger? I'm still doing that, gray beard and 40s. So.
No, man.
Hey, but look, you're right. Everybody does it when they're young. Just some idiots like me keep doing it forever.
but look, Parker, I was on a call the other night, and my brother Marshall took me in, and it was a group of older men, and I don't know the age. I know they was older than us, and it was this one guy that kept on saying before he spoke that I'm a work in progress, and by the sound of his voice, he at least had to be in his 60s. Yeah. And when he kept saying that, it just dawned on me, man, that should be our life. No matter how well we think we got it, we should always be holding up a sign in our life saying, I'm a work in progress. Even if I'm a Christian, hey, I'm a work in progress. We should never get to the point where we think that we can't be challenged, that we can't be told, that's not right, that's not wrong. And I think that's what's wrong with the world today. We don't have people in our lives that go challenge us, that's go hold us accountable. We need people in our life that's gonna do it. We know our wives go do it, our father and our brothers go do it, but we need that partner, every now and then.
Absolutely.
To tell us. And I got two partners that keep me, grounded like that. Brother Marshall and brother Damon. And we're a brotherhood, man, and we share life and everything else. But man, my faith is everything, man.
Right. So you are talking about Marshall Graves, obviously.
Right.
The father. Okay.
Right.
And tell us about Damon. Marshall Graves has been on our show. He's, we share him as a dear friend, mutual friend. Folks, if you got a chance, go back, watch his interview.
Right.
Watch his son's interview, which just took place a few weeks ago. Two amazing men. And of course, his father, Pastor Bruce Graves, an amazing man in his own right. So wonderful people. But tell us about Damon, because I feel that probably our viewers know less about him, and he would, he really should. You should share your praise to him here, if you don't mind.
Yeah, man. But I tell you, Parker, he's probably balling up right now because he don't like a lot of attention, but he did a great job.
Right, you don't have to by any means. I just
No.
I
But me
just
and
want to have
Marshall
an
always
imbalance
invested in
in,
it. We
in our
go, hey,
viewers.
look, we go give each
Appreciation.
other our flowers while they can smell them. I want to tell him why I'm alive and well. And so, man, Damon is a great guy. He's originally from the Kentwood area, but me and him been in music for I don't know how long. You know, he's a drummer by you know, that's what he do. His gift is, but he's been at North Oaks for 15, 16 years. But we keep each other in tune. We keep each other, you know what I mean? We look at each other, you know, for us, if it's from spiritually, financially, family wise, marriage wise, man, we we don't hold our tongue with each other, and that's what's so great about our relationship.
That's great that you have that circle. You know, God blessed you with two great brothers in your house growing up, but now you have these other brothers that life has put, you know, in place with you to keep you accountable and keep you on track. You mentioned Damon's gift for the drums. Let's talk about musical gifts, you know, of your own, because you are quite the performer. And in fact, your wife knows this, you may or may not, but the whole reason I was reminded I need to get you on this show is I'm driving down the road the other day with my boys and my iPad's on mix and your song Hoping You comes on. And I start jamming. And I'm like, how have I not called James Gibbs to be on this show yet? And so, of course, that's when I reached out and you know, you're such a talented musician. Tell us about that. Let's, you know, both in how you got into music, what inspired you in the first place, and then kind of walk us through your career, because it's not often that we actually get to meet someone local that's so talented, you know, that you're an actual recording artist, right? I mean, anybody can go on iTunes right now. And I would love for you to please share with us, where can we get your music? But before we get into that, tell us about how it all came to be.
It all started, man, in Springfield, Galilee Baptist Church, man. Started off as a youth in the youth choir. Been singing pretty much all my life, man. Then after that, you know, got in some a group, harmony group, male group. Then the choirs, I did the choirs and everything else. But man, it all started from my childhood. But the recording part of things happened. The first song that I ever recorded, and my partner, he didn't move to Stockton, California. He was supposed to be on here, but he might chime in later. But he had a lit studio in his that he had made out of a shed and turned it into a studio, and it was my anniversary. And God put a song on my heart, and I wrote it to Isha, and the title of the song was September 27, 1999, and that was my first outlook on writing. And even with that, man, I can remember being on a turnaround, and I told my dad, I was like 26 years old when I tried to start learning keyboard. I was on a job with my dad, not knowing that, you know, that he's really paying attention or anything. I said, Dad, I want to learn music, and you know, I think I'm gonna take up the keyboard. And man, next week on payday, man, he purchased me my first Casio keyboard from I think it was Hayden Music at the time, if you remember that, in Hammond area.
Yeah.
And man, I done wrote so many songs. It's not playable now on the keyboard, but I still have it, and I wrote so many of songs off that keyboard, man.
That's got to be so special to you, because I mean, there you are, grown man, 26, been working practically a decade, and you know, your dad's, you know, raised 4 kids, so you never stop being a dad, right? He's still stepping up, buying you what you want. And you know, Aisha's listening still. She's watching. She says we got to see your new edition performance.
Boy, she's talking about the performance with me, Marshall, and Damon. I don't know if you saw the movie. I think it was The Best Man with
Morris Chestnut. Was that
Chestnut?
Yeah,
you remember when they did the new edition thing?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
We did a remake of that, but please.
I gotta see that, man. That's my kind of music. You know, one of my first dates with Brandy, not my very first date, but the first date she paid for. This might be the only one. No, I'm kidding, baby, if you're watching. But I remember she bought us Boys to Men tickets early on in our courtship. So I'm a fan of harmony music, and so yeah, I got to see that. Is there a video, Aisha? Maybe you can post us a link. We all want to see that. You've got some other folks, and Marshall says "Bad Boys for Life." Some other good comments here that I'd like to share with us here. Nita says this is great advice. Miss Roslyn says it's a great family values growing up. She and your mom went to PHS together.
That's right.
And share the passing of husband. Thank you, Miss Roslyn, for sharing that. That I know that means a ton to you. Tammy Tucker's on here to say hey. And Deborah Haynes says she's so proud of the godly man that you are. God bless you. So, folks, thank y'all for chiming in here to support James. And it's really meaningful that you guys are taking the time to do that. He's getting an unusually high amount of comments. So this is pretty cool to see all these fans you have here. So learning about your kind of genesis in music, I mean, it's really cool. This I guess you said anniversary present for your wife,
right.
Which, here we are, whatever, 20 years later, I'm sure, it means so much to her still. But your dad gives you this keyboard and you follow through with it. I mean, how many kids have told their dad? I mean, I got a keyboard when I was a kid, and guess what? Went nowhere. Never learned a lick of music. It went in the trash. But you actually took this gift your dad gave you and turned it into something special. So tell us about, you mentioned your first recording, but what's this been like, this experience? Because you've played all over, you've recorded. Where's your inspiration come from? When you're writing music, when you're performing music, what's it like?
Man, Parker, and I tell anybody, man, I call myself more of a songwriter, even more than a singer, because man, it's scary. It's scary sometimes where lyrics come from. Hoping You, for prime example, my son was going through something at the time, being a coming of adolescence, coming to be a young man, and he had his dark times, and that's where that song, I was riding with me and my wife was riding, and she was driving, and I was on the passenger side. And for all the men, I drive, but that particular day, I just wanted to be on the passenger side.
Hey, Ross says keep it 100, bro. But he had to get out there that he drives. I like that, man. That's fun.
For real. But
that time you're riding as a passenger. This is an exception to the normal rule. And what it just comes to you? How does it come to you?
Parker, I was talking to God. I was like, God, give me something that can shed light on this whole situation that's going on. I know there's hope. I have been reading scriptures and all in Romans. I mean, you read Romans, and I mean, it's hope all through that text. And
right.
And that's where it started. I'm looking over my son's life, how we raised him, and I know that he knows better. And remember the scripture: train up a child in the way they should go. For when they're older, they shall not depart from it. Sometimes we have to remind God of what you said. God, this is what you said. This is what you told me to do. This is what you told me to say, and I'm saying it, God. I'm believing in it. You said the prayers of the righteous availeth much. God, I'm not living any type of way. So I need you to answer my prayers. And through all of that, man, that song transpired through seeing my son's life and things that I was hoping in God, and hoping you came up. I got total hope in God, and everything, every challenge that I have through me, through my kids. Because one thing you got to do as a parent too, Parker, is until our children get the sense of prayer, until they get the sense of really knowing God, we gonna have to stand in the gap. We gonna have to intercede for our kids, no matter how old they are.
Sure, absolutely.
So that's where that song came from. Hoping You.
That's a beautiful story. And speaking of your son, his sister chimed in here to say that she is proud of you, Dad. And so thank you for tuning in. I don't think I could get my boys to watch my show in a million years. So you're doing something right over there, Gibbs.
No, they go watch, Parker. Trust me. Trust me.
Although I will say this, if he's still watching, Luke, my son Luke, told me he wants to watch Coach Marshall's show. So the other night, now he might have just been doing this to try to put off his bedtime because he knows how to work that bedtime and try to extend it. And I told him, all right, we'll do it one night when it's not bedtime. But he says he wants to watch Coach Marshall's show. But we'll see.
That sounds good, man.
So that's really neat. So tell us about where we can get your music. Obviously, we must be able to get it to iTunes because I have an iPhone and that's where I was listening to. But tell us about where we can get your music and how all that works.
Okay, the music is on all digital platforms, like you mentioned, iTunes. You can go to Spotify, you can go to YouTube, What other things we got down here? My wife wrote a list down.
Yeah, no, check out your list. And while you're doing that, do we just search for James Gibbs Jr.? Is it under a different name? What's the best way to kind of find you?
James Gibbs Jr.
Okay,
Also,
great.
I've been doing this for a while. Even when you type in my name, James Gibbs Jr., another CD will come up, and it's titled Worthy. And I did that back in 2012. During the time, social media wasn't like it's at a boom now, and also during that time, I was heavy in the youth ministry, man.
Yes,
I poured, just gave myself into the kids, man. I've kind of put my music on the back burner, but it's one story that I want to share about a song that came off of CD Word, and the title of it is Spiritual Surgeon. And the reason why I'm doing this is because for me, it's not about the money, and I want to get that straight right now. It's about things that I'm about to tell you, and let me know, Parker, when we winding up, so I can know when to.
Oh yeah, sure. No, yeah, we got about 5 minutes left.
Okay.
So go for it. But if we need to go a little long, we can.
No, I won't be.
If we're on here talking about good Baptist gospel music, I can get a pass from my wife.
Okay.
If we were just talking sports, she might be mad at me if I stayed late. But please go on. We got all the time you need.
Okay, just off of that. Anybody that know me know that it's not about the money, but it's about the passion, and it's about the testimonies that I can help somebody with. But this one particular song was called Spiritual Surgery. If you get a chance to download it, please download it and listen to it, even if you just go and listen to it. But this particular song, I won't name the person's name, and they're not even much from around here, but they got my number, and they called and they shared their testimony. It was a young lady, and she said, Mr. James, I don't know you, but I was introduced to your CD, and it was one song that stuck out to me, and it's titled it's your song Spiritual Surgeon. And she said, just last week I found out that I was diagnosed with HIV, and she said your song Spiritual Surgery saved my life. She said, I got 2 young kids, and I was about to take my life, but coming across your song, I just want to tell you just to keep doing what you're doing. Be accepted to God when He's talking to you, because your song truly saved my life. So, Parker, with that being said,
wow, what a profound effect.
That's money to me.
Yeah, of course.
That's money to me. I help.
I don't know if you guys can see this, but I got this up here. So yeah, I mean, it's real easy to find. Just go on iTunes. Like he said, you go in there, the album Worthy, talking to a guy named James and the album Worthy, that makes me think of Big Game James Worthy, man.
Oh yeah, LA Lakers. LA Lakers.
You are a different kind of Big Game James, man, but that's that.
Man, Parker, and I tell everybody, man, I'm nothing but a country boy from Springfield, Louisiana, by the way of Ponchatoula, man.
Hey,
Ponchatoula,
I love your honesty, but let's be real. And I know you're a father with children now, so we'll keep this appropriate. But if you married Aisha Graves in the 90s, you had to be Big Game James to get such a wonderful wife, right? Because she wasn't going to go for any chump. I spent too much time with her at PHS to believe otherwise.
Man, I can't say too much about that. I can't say enough about that woman, man. She's totally and this is what's so true about it, Parker.
Right.
The same thing that you saying, I could talk to 10 other people and they say the exact same thing about her. She's one of a kind, and I thank God that she was created for me and chosen for me, man.
Well, and y'all make such a great pairing. It just shows God knows what He's doing. Although I got to circle back. We're talking about driving. Nita says Aisha's always driving when y'all pull up in Atlanta.
That's because I done drove most of the way.
That's funny. Yeah, she probably takes over 7 hours into that trip.
But look, she's a driver. When it comes down to driving, it must be a Graves thing. They just love to drive.
Isn't that the truth? Lord knows the Graves have driven more buses and cars than anything that everybody. They're like, how the Andretti family is like the royalty of race car driving.
That's right.
The Graves is a
that's
different
right,
kind
man.
of driving royalty. Speaking of Graves, Miss Norma's showing me some love. So Miss Norma, thank you so much.
Appreciate that, Marlo.
Deborah Haynes here says she absolutely loves your CD Worthy. She listens to the songs over and over again.
She was
in
one
your
of my
car.
biggest supporters of CD Worthy. Thank you,
Yeah,
Miss
yeah.
Haynes. Thank you so
So,
much,
folks. You really ought to check that out. And Aisha, she's calling me Parquet on here. I love it. Well, look, you guys have been such dear friends to me. You've been such an interesting interview, James. I thank you for sharing of yourself. And like I said, we got plenty of time to get into anything you want. But, before we kind of arrive at a close here in a few minutes or whenever, what else is on your mind? What else is on your heart? What else would you like to share with our viewers that we haven't really covered yet?
Man, so much family values, and I'm talking from a man's standpoint. Love your family, be the provider for your family. First of all, keep God first. I know we all say that, but it's different when you really try to live by those guidelines. So do that. I thank everybody for hoping you. Please check it out. It's on, and also I have a website that you can go. Is www.gibbsrightforyou, and that's the number 4 with the letter U. Gibbs Rights for You. That's my biggest thing, man.
If you don't mind, Aisha or anybody else who's on there right now with the ability to comment, if you could put that in the comments now for folks, we'd have a link. And if not, no sweat. Either James or I can circle back later. But if we have a friend or family member watching who's able to put the website in the link, that would really be helpful. That's great. Let me ask one other thing before we go here, because you mentioned your focus on youth ministry earlier, and I feel like we didn't give you due credit on that, because when you and I met, that you were really into that at the time, and you were pouring your energy into that. I know what a passion you've had for that, what an impact you've had on our community with that. What are some lessons you learned with years and years of mentoring local youth? And what are some lessons you share with them? I mean, I guess what I want to do here is ask you to maybe speak both to the youth in the community that may be watching, but more so because it seems like we have an older audience based on our comments. Not old, Aisha. I'm not calling you old. I'm not calling Miss Norma old. But my point is, what advice would you give to others on the right way to come at young folks if we want to reach and mentor and help tomorrow's future? What's the best way to go about that?
Right. Man, I have a long story on that, man, and Brother Grace can attest to this, and I won't share the story, but man, we learned what we're doing now. We learned through trial and error, and the first thing that I can say, being a mentor or trying to be a leader or try to give a youth instruction or anything, man, don't try to be their father. And what I'm saying is, don't try to step in and say, I'm fussing and this and that, because we're not their parent. What we're trying to do is just stand in a place to be a person that can speak life into them and share our stories. And that's why, I don't mind telling people that I didn't graduate. I don't mind telling people, what I had to come up through because of my own right, things that I chose to do. And people share that with me. They just the other day, I had a kid probably been off my bus 15, 20 years. Well, not 15, 20 years. I've been driving for 16, at least 15, 14, 15 came and said, Mr. James, I remember one time, and they was talking about another student that was on the bus. I remember how you handled that situation with that person. And everybody was laughing at him. But Mr. James, you said something that, that opened up my eyes as a person. So, man, whatever you try to do, just try to do it in a space that's clear, in a space that is no strings attached. I just want to be able to relate something to you, share something to you, and just to help you along the way. So the main thing is to remember that you're not the parent.
Right. That's great advice. And I appreciate that. Well, I can't thank you enough for doing this. This has been an amazing interview. You're such an inspirational person. I knew this was going to be a great interview because I knew you and how entertaining and energetic you are, but I didn't know how deep this would get and all the great angles that we went at here. And I love that you share your truth and you're candid about what some people might call low points, like dropping out of school, because you're providing folks with this path to redemption, showing them that just because you don't graduate at 18 doesn't mean you never graduate, and showing them that you can still come back and set this example for your children. You can still provide for your family. You could do all these wonderful things you've done in life, even if you don't, quote unquote, get it right at 18 or 16, right. Or, you know, so, I mean, it's just an amazing the lesson that you've shared with us here. Such a great example. Before we go, is there anything else that you'd like to share? Anything else you want to say?
Yeah, one last thing. Man, I just thank God for this opportunity, and it wouldn't be right if I don't give the people a taste of what I do. And it won't be like 30 seconds, but this is a song that I wrote for my father in his passing, and also we dedicated to my father and Aisha's father, Mr. Parker Layrisson. And we wanted to do something special for Father's Day for him a couple years back, and man, we hustled and bustled. I wrote it, and she came in and engineered it and everything else. But the title of the song is called "Hope in You," and I just want to do one verse just to dedicate it to anybody out there that may have lost a loved one along the way, and just be encouraged out there.
What a treat, please.
As I sit sometimes and wonder how different my life would be if you were here to say you was proud of me. Even though I'm grown and older, I still yearn for your love. But I feel like a child that's been left home alone. I wish it could be you on the phone, saying, child, I just called, nothing's wrong. But I gotta realize that you up there in that big old sky. And I'll never leave home without the thought of you. Yeah, I'll never leave home without the thought of you.
Holy cow, James, that was beautiful, man.
Yeah, man, I get emotional doing that, man. So excuse everything.
Wow, man. Look, hey,
listen to the lyrics.
My chest is my heart's about to pump out my chest, man. We've done like 60 something episodes, and we haven't had a moment like that yet. So thank you for sharing of yourself, your talent, your time, your story, and so much more. This has been really incredible. And we will close with the words of one of the wisest women I know, your wife. She says, "That was awesome. And you are a great husband and father, and she is truly blessed." And of course, I agree with her. So to our viewers, thank you so much. To Aisha, thank you for sharing those words.
Thank you, everybody.
Especially thank you to our guest, James Gibbs Jr., his amazing talents. This has been one of our best interviews yet.